Hi, writers. I'm going to give you a few tips about where I'm from poems, and I'll read you one or two of my examples so you can get a sense of what you can do when you're trying this on your own. Where I'm from poems are poems that take stock of our life by thinking back to people, places, and things that matter to us, and then bringing out specific memories through our five senses. So, really tapping into those sensory details to bring out moments, memories. Here's the thing though, you know a lot about getting started with narrative writing through people, places, and things. And where I'm from poems start the same way. However, they really go into the very specifics and they live in the specifics. For instance, in a story, you might go back to a place that you know that means a lot to you, and think about a really specific moment in time, but using that to show something that you learned in your life, something that's important to you, big picture. And you work really hard to write a whole story that reveals that reveals some lesson or part of you. And a Where I'm From poem does that, but doesn't have to go so deep. It can just kind of name the details, which is why it can be so fun to write. So my suggestion to you is to go back to your digital writer's notebook. So I'm gonna do the same thing. You might just go back and reread some of the stuff that you have already started in your generating and collecting ideas section, or you might go back and add on. Like I did a little bit of both. I went back and I actually read some of my old notebooks, like my physical notebooks. And I also went back into my digital notebook to see some of the jobs I already had started. And then I made some new jobs. But for me, it helped to grab some photos and just kind of drag them in to really get like some clear pictures in my mind before writing, because I know that in my poetry or in my Where I'm From poem, I want to really bring my memories to life through my sensory details. And so by looking at the pictures, it kind of helps me like go back in time to remember exactly what those moments or those people or like the moments, the people, the places, the things really were like. So I just gathered a couple of things for my people, my best friend, family members, places. I have a bunch of different places. That's usually where I start my reading, as you've noticed in class. A farm I worked on, where I live in Brooklyn, where I go to in Ireland, um, and also the place where I grew up and the place where my family comes from, Gloucester, Massachusetts. This is the beach right there. More places and things I love, places I love, just mountains in general, hiking, being on top of a mountain. Just something about it to me, just so special, so empowering. Things I love and things that also just mean a lot to me. I have my dog. I have a picture of sand just because like the beach is just such a part of my childhood and my life. Books, I'm obsessed with books, as you know. And I even have a picture of like my workspace in the library at Columbia University, where I used to do all my schoolwork. I have my coffee. I have my, if you look closely, you'll see I have my headphones. I have my paper, my pencils, and just those items like have always just followed me around. I'm a teacher and I'm also a writer. So post-its, pens, pencils, coffee mug, coffee cups, like those specific items have always just been a part of my life. Maybe they could make for an interesting part of a Where I'm From poem. So now that I've kind of looked back and reflected, maybe I'll pick one to start with. I'm gonna get started by picking maybe like something that just feels like I have a lot of different, I can bring out a lot of different like senses. I'm gonna start with, I think, the beach. I find it's just to be for me so easy to start writing about the beach. So I'm just gonna right now actually copy and paste the photo. You obviously, if you aren't doing this, you don't have to do it the same way I'm doing it by having the photos right there. For me, I just find it to be a little bit helpful. I'm gonna just get started right here, plan a little bit, have the photo right there. Maybe I'll jot down some of the senses that come up when I think of this place. Okay, let's see. In 5 senses, let's see what comes up for this place. Sights. I mean, I can just describe it. Blue, blue, also the grays. White foam from the ocean. we can talk about like the brightness of the sun. This is like a darker picture, but I'm just thinking that has sense. It's really bright too. The white flow made me think about also like the way that it feels and smells to be there. So maybe the feel when you're in the water, waves crashing. Also, especially at the beach I go to, because I'm from New England, like I'm from like a very northern part of Massachusetts, that's where this is. Um, how cold it is. It's freezing. We usually go in the water for the first time. Also, there's kind of like this like swampy smell because it's like right near a creek. It's like swampy smell. It's not a bad smell, just like a beachy, swampy, marshy smell. Touch. What else? Ooh, what else? I feel like for touch. Oh, the sand. I also used to do like make like drip drop castles, I used to call them. My grandpa taught me to make them. They were made with like wet sand. Okay, so do you see how now I have like a few different, I like planned out a few different senses I could use for my writing. I also picked a place to start with. I might I might just start with this one and then add another place, another place. But now I have a place to start at least. So now let me get started on my writing. I'm going to just do kind of the same work I normally do when I'm writing a story, but this time I'm just going to be focusing on the very, very specific details, those sensory details. Let's see. Where I'm from. How do you start a where I'm from poem? You know what I think I could do? I could check out an example. I'm going to go see what is listed over there in that Padlet, and I'm going to have this out with me as, oh, that's my original. It's my old version, or my old Where I'm From poem. I'm gonna pick out the original George L. Young poem that you read in class. I'm just gonna take a look at that as my mentor text and see like how did she get started. I'm in clothespins from Clorox. So she's starting by naming like really specific objects and things. You know what? I'm gonna try that too. I'm just gonna give it a go. Okay, I mentioned before those drip drop castles I made on the beach. So I'm gonna try that because I'm gonna start by talking about the beach. Where are you from? I am from Drip Drop Castles. What are some other things about the beach? Okay, so like the touch. What else was there? Maybe like what I see at the beach. Oh, maybe like from high tide to low tide. It's also something we always talk about at the beach. So it's like maybe like a phrase we use at the beach, like high tide and low tide. Maybe you have phrases that are special in yours that remind you of places or people or things. I am from turkey sandwiches, paper bags. I'm just thinking about like what I would have at the beach with me. My Nana would always pack lunches for us, and she'd pack them so nicely. Packed with paper bags with my name on it. I am from greasy French fries, and when I was a teenager, I used to always go to the snack shack and buy my own French fries or slushies, watermelon slush. Let me see if I can add some more senses. I feel like I haven't been mentioning that enough. That lights up your taste buds. So do you see how I'm picking? So what I did was I went through and I reminded myself of people, places, and things that matter a lot to me, that I know a lot about. Then I picked one that I know I could say a lot of stuff about. I could like give a lot of details, a detailed description about. So I chose the beach. Then I planned out what my senses would be. So I just jotted a few over here before I went to go write, just so I could have this so I could kind of know what I would want to work into my poem. And then I started writing by thinking about, like, for instance, how, like, maybe objects. You want to start by like naming a couple of objects using sensory details to explain it. Maybe next I'll talk about like at the beach. Maybe I'll talk more about like the people with me who are at the beach, like who comes with me and like what the situations are like. Maybe I'll talk about specific like memories from the beach. So when you try this, one way to get started would be to think about the people, places, and things that you've already thought a bit about. Pick one of those categories, pick one option to start with, and then try to plan and draft with sensory details in mind, bringing that to life with sensory details. That's one way you could do it. Another way you could do it is by going to looking carefully at the examples and seeing if you can almost mimic it by using your own stuff. I did that once also with this George Leone poem, and you'll see it right there in the Padlet. I actually tried to mimic it with another poem written by me. I wrote this poem a few years ago for my sixth graders. Those are my former students. Those are great examples too. You'll see my Where I'm From poem by me. I tried to mimic George Ella Leone almost exactly, naming objects, going through time like she did. So another way to get started would be to just have the exemplar or an exemplar up and then trying to mimic it with your own stuff. That's something that writers do. And it's not actually copying, it's just really just, writing under the influence of another writer. Another thing might be to think about like a place, a person, a place, and a thing for each stanza, and then just describe it with sensory details. Whatever you do, it's definitely worthwhile to spend some time looking at the Padlet for more examples and to use some of these tools to remind you of the narrative craft techniques that narrative writers use as well as poets use. And remember, I have examples that show different ways of doing this. We have kids who are rapping, who are speaking. I also have examples of kids who draw or to draw and write. You also could use photos or videos in yours as well. There really is no strict way to do this. It's really up to you, as long as you are capturing memories about people, places, and things that matter to you, using sensory details to do that. So as long as you write a poem that has something about the people, places, and things in your life that matter, and sensory details that help bring that to life, then you got this. To submit this, I actually would prefer it if you would just write it in your writer's notebook, and then tag whatever you do to me, just like how we've done before. Highlight what you did or highlight a page so that I know where to start looking. Press that comment button, add my name with the ad, and then I'll come and look at it. So that means on Google Classroom, you can just kind of check it off when you're done, and that will tell me that I can go look for your writing. If you want to, you also could just take a snapshot of this, or you could write it in a document and then upload it later to your writer's notebook. That's fine too. Whatever you choose, I would really like you to make sure that it's shared with me, hopefully in a digital notebook. If not, send it to me in a Google Doc or through Google Classroom. I hope this was helpful. I definitely recommend spending some serious time deeply thinking about the exemplars that are already listed for you. And feel free to reach out to me to ask me questions. I so look forward to learning more about you by reading these Where I'm From poems. I think they're going to be great, and they're going to be creative, and we'll have more time to add and revise them. So whatever you bring in on Tuesday will not have to, it's not your final copy, just, your first try at this. So do the best you can, have fun with it. That's what's most important. And, try to use what you know about narrative writing. It'll be great. Can't wait to see you do.